With that, I want to introduce our next guest. She is currently, correct me if I'm wrong, a Peekskill City Court Judge. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And she is running for County Court Judge. And you know what? I've asked 5 people, and hey, Lou Young, what's going on, sir? I've asked 5 people, and 5 people have given me 5 pronunciations of your last name, so I'm going to let you say it. Please pull the mic close to you so everybody can hear you, and tell everybody your name.
Melissa Loehr.
Loehr, okay.
Like rhymes with door.
I've been told Loey,
Yeah.
I've been told lower, like I've been all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So Loehr rhymes with door. I will never forget that again. So welcome to the show, and let me give you an official round of applause. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, what made you decide to run for? How long have you been in the Peekskill City Court Judge?
I'm in my 3rd year now.
Oh, okay. So, what made you decide to run for the county court?
Well, I've been a public defender for my entire career as a lawyer. Since 2001. So my experience comes from a public defender perspective. I have all the experience in criminal law. I know backwards and forwards. So I take that with me into Peekskill Court, and I want to take it further as a judge on the county court, because that's really a criminal law position as well. So that's my interest, criminal justice.
Now, I understand there are 2 seats available. There are 4 candidates running, I believe.
Right.
Why should voters make you one of the 2 seats that vote for you for one of the 2 seats that are available?
Well, voters should be informed. They should do their research.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they should ask all the judges the important questions. They should ask the judges how long they've been a Democrat, what their values are. They should look at their history, where they come from. I'm a legal aid lawyer, a public defender for my entire career. So I bring with me that perspective, and I have an understanding of things that are out there for people, alternatives to incarceration, restorative justice. So I bring that different sort of perspective. A lot of judges that we have were former prosecutors, so we have so it would balance it out more if we had more public defenders that actually make their way onto the bench.
So how do you stand? I know judges can answer certain questions. They may not be able to answer certain questions. How do you one of the big topics of our show a lot of times has been criminal justice reform. We had a criminal justice reform series. We talked about the new criminal justice reform that they passed through with the budget. We've had people come on about the no cash bail and all these things. Where do you stand? Because a lot of these cases, I guess, might come to the county. And where do you stand on criminal justice reform?
Well, it's great. All these reforms that were passed this year are amazing, and they're already being implemented. I'm still a public defender in the Bronx, so I see that the judges in the Bronx are already implementing all these measures as far as bail, low bail, no bail for misdemeanors. And all of these things have already been in my power and discretion to do, and I've been doing them already. But what this gives is gives judges guidelines to use when and when not to set bail. So it's really helpful. It's really important. The arraignment the arraignment day for somebody is really the most important day of their case, because that's deciding whether they're going to stay in jail or not, if they can afford to make bail or not. So these reforms are changing things for people in terms of being able to fight their cases, come back to court, whether they're going to be in jail or on the outside, being able to do that. So it's very important that these have been put into place, and it makes a huge difference.
I agree, because we have seen so many situations where Lady Justice sometimes peeks under the blindfold before dispensing justice. She's supposed to be blind, but every time it seems. So you've had a lot of, even on the national level, you've seen some high-level white criminals who have got a smack on the wrist or have done no jail time or didn't spend time in jail, and you have people in Valhalla who stole a pair of Jordans and they're in there for, they couldn't pay bail and they're in there. It's just not. There's been a balance. I don't know whether you want to say systematic racism or but it does look like Lady Liberty sometimes peeks under the blindfold. Right,
and so that's what the Bail Reform Act is all about, and the criminal justice reforms are all about, setting guidelines for people so that things are more fair and so that there is more chance of equal justice for people.
Dr. Bob has a question.
So, Judge Loehr, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm certainly impressed to hear of your record as a public defender. However, I want to, and it seems to me, based on the comments that you've made, that you're quite receptive to the call for greater equity in our court system. In addition to your role as a judge, I'm curious where your primary impact is going to be in the decisions you make. I want to know if you have any plans for advocacy of policy reforms. Is that within the purview of a county judge to in any way appear before our legislators or any other kind of agency to actually advocate for reforming a system that is now crying out for reforms?
Right. As a judge, it's my job to follow the law and apply the law. But as a judge also, and judges can join commissions and be on boards and things to discuss reform and to implement changes. So that is also a possibility. Although judges don't legislate, they can get involved to make an impact on how things are.
And besides the crop of popular reforms that have been proposed across the nation, the bail reform, reforms with respect to plea bargaining and sort of, well, let me leave it there, plea bargaining. Are there any other kind of reforms that you believe need to be made that have not yet made it onto the public agenda that you'd be pushing for? Even though I know you're going to be mainly serving in court.
Well, I think the reforms that have been made so far are great. I guess the next step that should be looked at would be prison reform and restorative justice measures, and to keep going with the alternatives to incarceration for people and programming.
Okay.
Before I go any further, for people that are just hearing about you for the first time, I know there's not a lot that you can learn about a person in a half an hour. They want to look you up. They maybe want to volunteer or donate to your campaign. Website, social media, how do they reach you?
So I have a website. It's electjudgeloehr.com. I know it's hard to spell my name, so I'll spell it out. It's electjudge, and then my last name is LOEHR.com. And on there you can email me. Or you can email my campaign. There's a donate button. There's a volunteer button. You can register to vote. So that's the best way to contact me. Or I have my campaign manager here. Might give you some further information.
So can I now? And I like to hear from other people sometimes. So as a campaign manager, what attracted you to this candidate that you wanted to be involved in this campaign? You got to pull the mic close to you.
What's not to like about Judge Loehr?
Okay.
I also work with
the say your name too.
Neville Mitchell.
Okay.
I also work with the Legal Aid Society. Actually, I've only been there since January. Prior to that, I was in private practice. A little bit about my background. I represented the family of Sean Bell when he was killed by police. I also represented the mother of Ramali Graham when he was killed by police.
Okay, no, Constant very well.
Yes. So what attracted me to Judge Loehr is she's a real person, and so if folks really want to look up what somebody's about, they can look at what they've done in the past to get a sense of who they are. So I know that Judge Loehr was in South Africa during the protests against apartheid. She wasn't a judge then. I also know that in Peekskill she was involved in the preservation of the historic Underground Railroad. I also know that she was involved in the protests when Eric Garner was killed. I also know that she's been representing black and brown people for 19 years.
Okay.
And that's all I need to know.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And side note, I need to get your card as well, because we've had Ramali's parents on. We've been constantly with that. Eric Garner's family. We've been dealing with Sean. Every time there's a situation, which unfortunately I'm sure there'll be another one. We always look for experts or people that are that can speak on the topic. So I definitely want to call on you in the future for those kind of shows.
Absolutely.
Anything I haven't asked you that you you have a comment. Neville says, hi Neville, Cynthia Turnquest Jones. She said, I marched with him many days for Ramali Graham, for the I Am Ramali Graham. Cynthia was the first co-host of the show with me and Damon when we first started the show, and was formerly one of Ramali's teachers. And she's been very active in that campaign, so she wanted to give you a shout out.
Hi, Cynthia.
Yeah. So anything I didn't ask you that you want people to know about you?
I'm a mother of 4.
Okay, yes.
So,
well, see, that's the now that gets me to the question. That's the question I usually ask. Who is Melissa, the person? Not the judge, who the person?
Right. So besides what I've said already, I'm a mother of 4. And so I bring that with me as well. I'm patient and fair, and I know how to, I'm a great multitasker because of that, and I know how to mold behavior as well, so that's important as a judge.
Now, what do you mean? I know what you mean, but I want you to explain. What is mold behavior? What do you mean by that?
Well, a couple of things, actually. So one thing is courtroom decorum. You have to be able to control your courtroom and what's going on in it, and everybody has to be respectful of each other. So I have to be able to maintain that, which I've done so far in Peekskill as a city court judge there. But also, you have to be sensitive to people and individuals and their individual needs. And so when you meet somebody, you have to try to evaluate and see what that is and how you could maybe play a part to help. So when you have people entering into the criminal justice system, there are a lot of different needs they may have. There could be immigration issues, there could be mental health treatment issues, drug problems. There's so many different things that a lot of times when people come into the system, there are these things exist. So it's important to be able to look at that and evaluate that as well.
I agree, and I compliment you on that. I know we have 2 judges in Mount Vernon, Adrian Armstrong and Judge Nichelle Johnson, and it's one of the things that I liked about them, that I've heard about them, because it's more than just sitting there judging, the case. There's a lot of times there are things, and as people of color, sometimes those things are not taken in consideration. It's just what the paperwork says, what this is, and here's the, and I believe, sometimes if you have to take in consideration some of those circumstances within your ruling. So I'm very happy to hear that personally. Yeah. Lorraine?
Yeah, I have a question. 19 years?
Yes.
Out of those 19 years, have you ever had a case where you sentenced someone and you regretted it?
Well, 19 years I've been a public defender at the Legal Aid Society.
Oh, okay.
As a city court judge, no. No.
Now, go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Judge Loehr, one of the issues that has been continuously raised in the media today is the issue of prosecutorial misconduct. There have been several bills on the docket in New York State that look to reform the prosecutorial procedures. I want to know, have you ever encountered any acts of prosecutorial misconduct in your courtroom? And if so, what kind of steps have you been taking, absent systematic reform coming out of Albany, to make sure that prosecutors do not abuse their authority and unjustly subject people to the power of the court?
Well, as a judge, I'm not allowed to speak on specific
Right. That's what
cases that I've had or people that have appeared before me, or how I would rule on a particular thing. But I would just say, in my courtroom, I make sure that everybody's treated fairly and impartially, and make sure that everybody's doing their job on both sides. So I wouldn't take it lightly if somebody with no criminal record was about to plead guilty to a crime and didn't understand what was happening there, which would be getting a criminal record for the rest of their life. I don't take it lightly someone that's addicted to drugs getting sentenced to some jail time rather than seeking out some sort of program. So these things I consider on both sides in my courtroom to make sure things are fair.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I also wanted to point out that Judge Loehr is a native of Yonkers. And
That's right. Born and raised in Yonkers. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I grew up campaigning for Democrats and pounding the pavement, handing out palm cards and literature. And to this day, I've always been a Democrat. I've still been involved in campaigns before I was a judge. Yeah.
So how long have you been in Peekskill?
I've been in Peekskill over 20 years, about 22 years now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Peekskill's also a nice river town,
Right.
like Yonkers.
Right.
Mhm.
When now, Lorraine, I don't know if you know, Lorraine was the first Latina councilwoman in Yonkers. I don't know if she was there when you were still in Yonkers.
Oh, when were you
I
there?
remember the name. 1989 till then. After a year, I left and I became special assistant to John Spencer and special assistant to Phil Marconi. I worked 20 years as special assistant to both mayors.
Wow, that's great. No, that was after my time. I had moved by then.
Okay. I'm just going one more time. I don't think I made this announcement in the beginning, and I forgot. I apologize. Shout out to Jennifer Carpenter, Peter Sherrill, and Frank Duncan. And Nas Duncan said, good evening, everybody. We will not be, because the candidates each have a half an hour, we will not be taking calls. And if you have a comment, you can definitely leave it. Okay, I see a question. You can definitely leave it, and I will read your question. And the reason we're not doing calls is because, in my experience in doing these things, sometimes the person takes 5 minutes wanting to get to the question, or they just talk, and you get 1 or 2 calls, and you got half an hour, and then took up half your time on 3 people calling, and we don't get actually to do much of this. We have one question, though, from Joseph Nigro. She said, while looking to...
I think it's probably supposed to be why, maybe.
Okay.
Why looking to make the move to county?
Well, he has a second question, and I want to go to that one first. Do you have an opinion on what's happening in Mount Vernon? That
is the question of the day.
I want to hear the answer to that question.
Well, as a judge, I can't really make a political
right.
I can't really make political commentary on other areas, and it's really none of my business because I don't live in Mount Vernon.
Okay.
But why am I making the move to county? Because right now I'm still a public defender at the Legal Aid Society in the Bronx, where we have some of the most fair juries in the country, and also some of the poorest communities in the country as well. So I'm still a judge in Peekskill. I'm still a sitting judge there. But it's nice because it keeps me grounded. I still have 1 foot on the ground as a public defender, and I'm also a judge. So it's been a nice transition, and I love both my jobs, and I really appreciate, and I'm honored to be the Peekskill City Court Judge. But now, as a county court judge, I'd be taking my experience farther in the county court, which deals with mostly felonies.
Okay. Now, public defender, what made you want to go into this particular field? Law, be a public defender. What made you? I don't know if we talked about that. What brought you there?
Yeah. So what got me there is I grew up in a very political family, Democratic family, and I was raised to know that prejudice is wrong, racism is wrong. I observed that in the world around me growing up. But when I went to South Africa, I think that was a life-changing experience because I was in a different country and my eyes were open to the evils of racism in a different way, in a different place in the world. So when I went there and I experienced what I did, the protests and the police dogs that are trained to attack African people specifically, and the injustice, and that's a place where the African people at that time outnumbered the white people from 10 to 1.
Right.
Right. So that's an opposite sort of situation that we have here with the racism here. Right. So there'd be 10 white people to 1 African American proportionately.
Right.
So being there where it's the opposite numbers, but still legislated racism existed, it really opened my eyes to the evils of it. I studied music there and world literature and feminism, and I played with a band there. We had a message of unity that we played in all the corners of South Africa. The first time I played with them, we played in front of 3,000 people. We played everywhere from the
Oh, you
township.
played. What did you play? You were in the
Yeah,
band?
I played keyboard.
Oh, get out of here. Okay, there you go. There you go.
So we had our message was of unity and to stop the war that was going on there. And we played everywhere from concert stadiums to township shebeens to nightclubs. So I really got a sense of all what was going on there and all the different cultures. So I really felt inspired by that when I came back to this country. I felt inspired to assess all of my skills and decided that I wanted to become a lawyer. And I was thinking of doing civil rights or environmental law. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something that was of service. But when I went to Pace Law School, I did the criminal defense clinic there. And as soon as I stepped into the courtroom, I knew that was what I wanted to do, and that's what I needed to do where I was supposed to be, because I do feel like in life I try to follow signs and take the path that feels like it's the right thing to do. And I've been there ever since.
Now what brought you to South Africa? That part I didn't hear. What brought you to Africa?
So I was studying in college, undergrad, and I had a professor that was from there originally. He was going back, and he had an open invitation to all of his students and said, if you ever want to come, you should come to South Africa, come stand up for what you think is right. So I applied to university there, and I was accepted, and I went there, and that's what I did.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it was the most tragically beautiful place I had ever experienced, because the beauty, the natural beauty, the beauty of the people, the beauty of the languages is just striking compared to the tragedy of the legislated racism that people are living under.
I've always wanted to go, and I'm sorry I've never tried. I definitely want to do that.
Yeah,
and one
so
of my
beautiful
favorite
there.
comedians, authors is Trevor Noah. And
Right.
hearing him tell his story,
Mhm.
it just moves. It just moved me a lot. But go
Right.
ahead.
I know the last name for many, many years.
Yes.
Is your father currently a sitting judge?
Yes. So
Yeah, okay.
and from Yonkers also. That's why I grew up campaigning, because my father, starting from when I was a toddler, he was a 2-term councilman in Yonkers.
Yes.
And then he was the mayor, and then later on he became a county court judge, and then a Supreme Court judge, and he's still a Supreme Court judge now. Yeah.
You had a question, Bob?
and Judge Loehr, I guess you made your trip to South Africa during the closing years of the apartheid regime.
I was there before,
Mhm.
and after apartheid. So actually, I came back here, and I finished up my degree here.
Mm-hmm.
And then after apartheid was abolished, after the elections, I decided to pack up and move there, because I thought it was the most hopeful place to be at that time.
Mhm.
So I did go back there for a while and went back and played with the band.
Okay, not serious judicial work, but cultural work. Cultural work.
You're talking about my early 20s.
I understand.
So, any last words? Anything I didn't ask you? And again, please give your website, your social media, and all those things, and how people can reach you.
Okay, so the website again, it's www.electjudgeloehr.com. And Facebook is Judge Melissa Loehr for County Court. And
And we have a fundraiser
Okay, well,
right. On the 22nd,
Okay.
which is next week, 22nd of June. It's going to be in Peekskill. Actually, it's a fundraiser and a launch of the campaign.
okay.
A little bit late for the launch, but
Okay.
better late than never. It's at the Division Street Grill
Okay.
in Peekskill, starting at about 6:30, going till about 9:30.
I've never been there, but I know of it from my friend Andre Rainey, who sends me a bunch of stuff that ends up happening at that place.
Right,
And
yeah.
I always see that as the address, but I don't know. I've never been there, though.
You can check that out on the website and also at the Facebook page. And on the website, there's this huge button that says
Donate.
donate. We urge people to use that button.
Okay. Okay.
And then I think there's another thing that people should know is that this is a very important position, the county court judgeship. It's a very important position.
Absolutely.
And people don't always get to choose their candidate. So this year there's a primary. And there's 4 people going for 2 open
seats,
spots.
right.
So this year is unique in that you get to choose this year. You get to decide. It's not a decision that's made ahead of time and then you just go into the general election. So now you get the primary on June 25th, which is a new date, which is we're trying to get the vote out because it's usually in September, so people are a little confused. So we've been campaigning and doing our best to go out and meet people and get the vote out for that date. But I think it's very important for people to exercise their votes and do that on primary day. And primaries are becoming much more popular now with people standing up and wanting to be counted. So people should get out. People should vote in primaries and general elections. Why wait until the general election? Have the
Right.
choice be made for you.
Right.
Research your candidates and make your choice.
Democrat.
AJ, you asked me earlier why I supported her. I think the public needs to look at the resume of all four of the candidates, and when you look at the resume of all four of the candidates, you're going to have someone who's been a prosecutor for almost 30 years. You're going to have somebody else who's a judge. I think he is right now in Austin. You're going to have somebody who's a lawyer. You're going to have somebody who's been a public defender for 19 years, and look at the rest of her record as compared to their record, and I think the choice is obvious.
Well, I'm glad to meet you. You had a comment. One of our listeners, Joseph Nagle, said, "Great job tonight, Judge. Good luck."
Thank you so much.
It was great to finally meet you in person at Women for Wallace. I think that was the event. in
Yeah, it was
Mount
great to
Vernon.
meet you. That was a nice surprise, yeah.
And as always, I always want to say a special thank you for anyone who advertised to help support the paper to come out, and thank you for advertising, and please
thank
keep
you.
that up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And please keep me on your email list. Make sure I know what's going on.
Great,
I
will do.
will not be able to make your event on the 22nd because I have one in Yonkers that I have to go to. But if you send me pictures and a little press, I'll make sure that I get it on the website for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
And
that.
anything, I would like, when you win, I would like you to come back. Well, you can't
I
come
like
back.
to say when I win.
You can't, but you can't come back after you win, right?
No.
She can come back. It's just a matter of what she talks about.
Okay, well, I would like to welcome you back, and when you after
Great.
the election.
Look forward to it.
Definitely.
A victory appearance.
Absolutely. And you got one person on here that says she got my vote. You got one
Wow,
person
thank you
from
so
Mount
much.
Vernon. Shanice Coleman, yes.
And some
yes.
people also like to know that I'm the only woman on the ballot.
Very
Yeah.
important.
And the other thing is they do a lottery where they pick the number out of the ball, like on the lottery. And I got lucky enough to get the first spot as well. So it's easy to remember. I'm the first person on the ballot, the first thing you vote on when you go to the polls.
About Black Westchester and People Before Politics was started by me and my partner Damien K. Jones. He's not here, but he just typed in, "She is going to win." That's
Thank you so much.
And he's part of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. and
Wow,
all of that.
great.
So,
I would
yeah,
love
so
to meet him. So,
Absolutely.
So
I'll
if you
just-
can
I'll
give me
make
his
that happen.
information, we'll reach out to him.
I will definitely get the two of y'all together
Great.
and connect the two of y'all together.
You should let Damien know that I'm waiting to hear from him because I emailed him and I called him. I'm just waiting to hear from him.
Okay, David, did you hear that?
Got a lot of-
But who has one of y'all have my number, right? Who's
I do.
contact? Okay, contact me and I will make sure that I will put the two of y'all together.
Okay.
That's not a problem. And thank you for coming and good
Thank
luck.
you so much. It's been a pleasure to
it
talk
was
to
great
you.
and I'm glad that we have this forum where we could talk to. I would love to give everybody much more time. There's a lot of people in the county running, but just give the people a look of the different candidates in the county.
So important.
One question just for all the women out there, because I think last year or this year is the year of the woman. Why is it important to have more women on in the seat, the judge as judges?
I mean, most importantly, it's important to have good judges on the bench.
I like that
Right?
answer. Right.
But considering the political climate right now, a lot of women are saying that they want more women on the bench and they want more women in leadership roles because of what's going on politically in the country, about choice being taken away.
Well, you're getting a good response online. Louis Cherico Greenberg says, "My vote also."
Thank you.
Rabab from Mount Vernon said, "Go Melissa, she's
Hi,
awesome."
Rabab. Thank you.
Shanice says she's down to earth. She met you again at Women for Wallace.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So you're getting some support. So
Great. Appreciate it.
But make sure everybody will share the website, and I'll cut this part up. So just your part of the interview so you can share with everybody. You don't have to watch the whole show.
All
I'll
right.
probably give me a couple of days, but I'll have that up on the website.
Okay, great.
Thank you
This
very
is so
much.
good. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Judge. We
Okay,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
coming
Thank
by.
you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
A little delayed here. Yeah.